Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm your host, Lisa Oligas. Libraries today are no longer simply stacks of books and a quiet place to read. They're centers for learning and access to all forms of media and activities. That's true at the Joplin Public Library, and in this Newsmakers, we'll learn about a community read project, equipment available in the makerspace for all to use, activities in the Children's Library, and all about the Teen Library. We begin our conversation with Lori Crockett, the Public Relations and Marketing Assistant for the library, and Sarah Turner-Hill, the Adult Programming Coordinator. Thank you, ladies, for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
So, we have a big announcement, Sarah. The library is doing something new, at least for Joplin, something different, called a community read. What is that?
Yes, so a community read is typically a month-long event that's focused upon one book. And within that month, there's programs and events that are associated with the book and themes in the book. And so our community read is called Joplin Reads Together, and our book is Remarkably Bright Creatures. And so throughout the month of April is when we'll have our community read, and we'll have events and programs related to the book, such as book discussions and things like that. Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of people are in book clubs like, oh, I didn't read it all, or I didn't finish it. Is there a time that you want to have read the book so that you're prepared and there aren't too many spoilers?
Right. So for the library's book discussions, we're going to be discussing the entire book at our discussions. So you'd want to have it read by April if you plan to come to any of those. But we also have book kits available through the library for the community read, and it has 8 hard copy books and 2 audio books with some discussion questions. So if you want to host your own book group or book discussion, you could check out one of those and do that too, and do it on your own timeline if you wanted to.
So I was going to ask, how many copies of this book does the library have, or do people have to buy it on their own? Is there a cost involved?
So there's no cost for anyone to participate in Joplin Reads Together, unless someone wanted to own the book. It's totally up to them, so they could buy it. Otherwise, yeah, you can check it out from the library. We've purchased multiple copies so that hopefully there's enough. We have hard book cover copies. We also have audiobook copies. And then we also have e-copies too, so e-audiobooks and e-books. So there's a variety of formats for everyone's reading needs. Yeah.
And we actually announced it at the end of January in an effort to let people have enough time to get to read it. And we also encourage people, if they would like to get it, to go ahead and purchase it. That would be great, because the exciting part is that the author is coming to visit Joplin. She will be here April 27th. Shelby Van Pelt. It's her debut novel, but it's a New York Times bestselling book. And she will be here to answer questions and to sign books for people that have purchased them.
So you're getting the word out in many ways. Lori, your position is relatively new at the library. Why is it important to share all these things with folks, to get them involved with the library?
Yeah. Well, my job is I'm the PR marketing assistant for the library. And I would just say that my job in a nutshell is to make sure that people know about the resources that we have to offer. As you and I were speaking about earlier, we have so many things. We have books, we have magazines, we have newspapers, we have databases, we have programming. The list goes on and on. But it's only worth something to the community if they know about it. So we use a variety of channels to get that information out. Obviously, we appear on television sometimes. We do social media, Facebook and Instagram and things like that, and just all kinds of different marketing programs and things in place to make sure that our message is out there and people know.
You bet. So community read is something new for Joplin, but it's been done other places. So tell us a little about how it's been done and why it's catching on.
Yeah, so community reads are most popular at public libraries, I would say. And whenever we were picking a book, and we did a lot of research into community reads in general, and they're very common just throughout the nation, like I said, mostly public libraries. And every library does it a little different. Every library picks their own book with their own programs that they associate with it. But it's the first time for the Joplin Public Library to have one, so we're really excited to see how it goes. We hope people enjoy it, and then we hope to continue doing it as well.
It's kind of a good way to have community engagement. Why is that so important for a library?
Well, I would say that because we are not just books. That's not to put down books. I am an avid reader, and I love to read. But we also see ourselves as a community hub. that we're offering these resources for people. We are wanting to engage the community, help keep them interested in what we have to offer, but also keep them engaged as a community. If you have a book that you are reading that you know someone else is reading, you have something to talk with them about. You can expand on what their experience was and learn from that. And I think the more that we are able to keep those conversations going and foster that sense of community is going to make for a stronger community.
I would think it would also foster reading. Is that
Yeah.
important? Do we see a shift of people not reading as much as they used to, since there's so much out there when it comes to streaming and other movies and other platforms?
It's hard to say. I think reading's just changed a little bit because, like you mentioned, there's just so many formats. But I think we definitely still see a lot of people read. And what we hope with the community read, what it does is just kind of foster that reading and literacy and just show the experiences that can come from a book, from reading, such as our events and our programs that we'll have in April that have to do with the book. Those happen because people read the book and hopefully want to come to the events and the themes that are in the book, and it all centers back to reading, and that's just a very nice thing to focus on and to share with people that you might not have known before going to any of those events or reading that book.
A lot of people read for themselves and they read privately, but then you want to talk about it with someone. And this way, at least you know somebody has read the book, and they might getting their reactions and their interpretations.
Yeah.
Is this a book that might foster a lot of either debate or, different interpretations? Have you read it?
Yes, yeah, I think so. And that was actually something that we kind of looked for when we were picking our book, is a book that would have opportunity for discussion. So yes, I do think it's a book that will foster discussion, and it has several different themes. So I hope that it'll have something that most people would enjoy.
Something everyone can relate to.
I know when we were going through the process of picking a book, we were, of course, having discussions at the library. Well, what did you think of this character? And what did you think of this? And just seeing the diversity of answers from just our group in the library, it's like, this is going to be great to get out into the community and see what different people think. And I also think it's important that, so many times we come across people that are like, oh, I used to read all the time and now I don't anymore. I just don't know what to read. And I think the way a lot of people get back into reading is someone will recommend a book and they will love it and remember how much reading means to them. And so this one comes with the Joplin Public Library recommendation.
Yeah, well, we've heard of the Oprah Book Club. Reese Witherspoon is a big, public advocate of reading.
This one was actually, it made the New York Times bestseller list. Actually, I think it's twice now it's made it. And then it was a Read with Jenna pick. It was the Goodreads nominated it for 2 awards, Best Debut Book and Best Fiction. And then there's been a variety of other, blogger awards and influencer and all these things. So it's been very well received across the country, and we think it'll be really well received here too.
Sounds great. Well, thank you for both sharing all this about this.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
When we come back, we'll be visited by the children's librarian and tell what's available in that department. And as we go to break, how you can get a library card. Welcome back to Newsmakers. When my kids were little, we went to the public library once a week bringing home a stack of books. But there are also activities there that engage children. Joining us to talk about that is children's librarian Christina Madical-Gibson. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
We've been talking about how the library is a really active place. So you have lots of books, but you also have a lot of hands-on experiences for kids. Tell us about some of the things you guys offer.
Yeah, so something that was alluded to a little bit earlier is the fact that the children's department at the Joplin Library we're a family place library. And so along with that, we really prioritize whole learning. Kids learn through books. Yes, kids love books, but they also learn through hands-on activities. We've got early literacy game computers. We have all kinds of hands-on toys, blocks. We have a Lego table, a train table, a play kitchen. We have something, not a toy, but something that's just as popular as our super cozy seating. We have our window seats that you can curl up in and read. So really the whole department is designed to be enjoyed.
Yeah, and kid-friendly, and to stay there and really
Yeah,
enjoy the
yeah.
experience.
Yes.
So when you have kids there, is parental supervision part of it? Do you encourage them to guys be engaged together?
Yeah, so we really prioritize family engagement. We can teach all kinds of things during our weekly story times or elementary programs, but we're still only seeing those kids once a week if they make it once a week. Children are with their families all the time. They're the ones who have the most impact on their kids. And so we do prioritize family involvement and engagement in all of our programs.
Because we hear parents are busy, but it really is important that parents read to their kids as well. Is that something that's encouraged? I know you said you have read aloud programs. How important are those?
Yes, so we do have we have 6 weekly story times for ages 0 to 5. And again, that's great. They're learning, kids are seeing firsthand, being introduced to new books, being introduced to the concepts of how to tell a story, to characters, to plot, all the kinds of wonderful elements of a book. But again, we're only with them for a short period of time.
Right.
And so a big component of our story times is modeling what that can look like, what it can look like to have a conversation around a book. We don't sit and present a book to kids who come to our story time. We ask questions, we involve them in the storytelling. And so, a big component of our story times is family engagement and modeling what reading a book can look like at home.
We talked about the community read, but there always is usually a summer reading program or a challenge for kids. Tell us a little bit about when that strikes up and some of the things you put on there, because it's not always just, read this many books.
Yeah. So our summer reading program, yes, is our big landmark event in the children's department, and it's an all ages program.
Yeah.
But it starts the Tuesday after Labor Day, so right after school or Memorial Day. Yeah, Tuesday after Memorial Day. So right after school lets out, and it runs through June and July. We have a reading challenge, and so you have to read a certain amount of time, and that differs based on your age. You also have to complete a list of activities. Some of them are reading focused, some of them are go along with the theme. They may be community focused. And then along with that, we have events all summer long. We bring in special guests who will put on musical performances, magic shows, storytelling performances, and then we also, the children's staff will offer quite a bit more during the summer for kids when they're out of school.
Yeah, I mean, when my son would go, they do things like cutting out things, and sometimes it was crafts, and sometimes it was entertainment. There was always something different that could engage the kids, and I think that it made them feel welcome to share something with other kids as well.
Yes, definitely.
Even the children's area does have computers and activities. So how should a parent balance those activities? Is there a certain amount of time that you should say, okay, let's spend this amount of time here and move on?
So, of course, those decisions are kind of, individual decisions for each family to make on their own. But what we kind of try to emphasize is that learning can come in many forms. We, as Lori said, we love books. Books are, all share books all day. I'll help people find books all day. But that's not the only way that we're learning.
Sure. There are tactile learners.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so you learn, maybe you read a book where someone's cooking, and then you can play in our play kitchen and act those things out. So it gives you a
Lots of
chance to, practice what you're learning, what you're reading about in books.
All right. Thank you, Christina, for sharing about the Children's Library.
Thank you for having me.
Hands-on experiences aren't just for kids at the Joplin Public Library. We took a tour of the Makerspace guided by librarian Jill Halbeck.
Today we are visiting the Makerspace at Joplin Public Library. Librarian Jill gave us a tour of the Makerspace to help us learn more about the resources that they have to offer the public.
This is our media conversion station. It's where you can bring in a variety of analog or mostly outdated materials and convert them to digital files so you can preserve them. And we can do a variety of things. We can do negatives, slides, we can even do Super 8mm film, we can do vinyl records, cassettes, and VHS tapes, all from those formats over to digital files. And we had a woman bring in her father's photographs from when he traveled during World War II. And what was great about that project is we could scan the front and the back of the photograph at the same time. And so what he wrote on the back of the photograph was saved right there next to the image. Now we have our PC, which has a variety of applications, including the Adobe suite that people could use, and the Microsoft suite as well. However, what we use it for the most is to operate our epiloxing laser cutter. This is a 40-watt machine. It can cut or etch a variety of materials. It's my personal favorite piece of machinery we have in here, and it's very popular among our patrons. I'd say it's probably the most used thing we have. And we can make very functional things, such as if you need letters or numbers for your mailbox. But we can also do really fun things like laser engraved pies and chocolate.
Right now I'm making gifts. I'm making a little wooden chest that's in the shape of what's called a mimic. And then I just have to provide the wood and cut it out, glue it together, paint it. If I bought it, I think the file cost me like $7. To buy the chest already pre-made is like $30, and I'll make as many of them as I want. And these are just something fun that the guys like. I also use the 3D printer every once in a while for printing out miniatures. So it's fun. Sometimes it can take 10 minutes to do an engraving, and sometimes it can take 2 to 3 hours. And so I went ahead and got a card here at the libraries. Oh, this library is beautiful, it's amazing, it's well designed, it's a really good library.
The space also has 2 Mac computers loaded with resources like Adobe Suite and GarageBand and are often used for prepping files for 3D printing.
So this is our 3D printer. We have an Ultimaker 3. What's unique about this 3D printer is it's a dual extruder, which means we can run 2 materials at once. You can reserve it by making an appointment, or you can come in and do a walk-in, and as long as it's not in use or we don't have someone scheduled to use it before your print would be finished, then you could complete your print. Whenever this print is finished, an octopus will just be sitting on it, just like this. This one's used often. This is probably in the top 3 of the things used here in the Makerspace, but it's growing as more people come to the space, so more items are getting used.
The Makerspace also has other resources, such as button making and textile crafting.
Over here we have different hand tools that people could use to create things. We have knitting needles, crochet hooks, jewelry making tools. We have looms for knitting or crocheting. We also have hoops for embroidery or other things like that. And we have a sewing machine. Our sewing machine was actually the first piece of equipment in the space that was used by a patron back when we opened in 2017. I think it's important that we have items like this in the space just to show that you don't have to have all of these huge technological things to be creative or even to create things that are functional. The space like the Makerspace, and part of its intention initially was that people could learn different skills they may need to get a different job or a better job or something like that that could enhance their current work, whether it be something really functional or something really creative. Sometimes, actually often, I think people will come in to use one thing in the space, and then once they see the other things in the space, they become interested in those things. We've had so many people say, well, I'm not creative. And then at the end of it, they can't believe that they made a project. And that sometimes that's just the spark they needed to become creative or to get involved in something that they didn't think they could do beforehand.
Be sure to come visit the Joplin Public Library in their makerspace. Come learn to make something special. Thank you for watching. I'm Cassandra Williams.
Welcome back to Newsmakers. There are many things pulling for the attention of today's teenagers. The library is a safe space with activities and topics to explore. Joining our conversation is teen librarian Beth Snow. Thanks for being here, Beth.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
So, teenagers today, I mean, we probably think, oh, it's hard. They're pulled so many different directions. How do we get their attention to say, hey, reading is still important?
Oh my gosh. I find like any part of working with teens or part of teen services at the library, the answer is to meet them where they are. Everybody's an individual, even if you're 12 to 18 years old, not just folks past 18. So we try to get to know the teens that we can and extrapolate for those that we are meeting for the first time, and just try to meet them where they are, So we have collections and activities that are designed to appeal to a variety of folks, a variety of teens, in the hope that they will find something that will plug them in or connect them to the library.
Right. So, I mean, because I know like anime has been really popular, but it's not necessarily for all teens. So, I mean, what are some of the different genres that do appeal to teens?
Right. Yeah. So as far as our collection, our books and our items, anime is a hot topic. The book side of that, the Japanese comics, manga, is equally hot and exciting. There's a couple of long-term trends. Anime, one of them, dystopian, has been really steady since 2008 when the Hunger Games series was first published. Okay. There's a recent trend, dark academia, which has been hot. So,
what is dark academia?
I'm glad you asked. It is. It consists of books, fiction books that are set in a boarding school or a college setting. Think like Oxford or like a posh private boarding school. And there's usually a group of friends. There's an interest in books. It started out as an aesthetic during the COVID shutdown on Instagram and TikTok, and there will be some sort of mysterious or suspenseful or morbid dark twist to it that kind of turns it. So if you've seen the recent Netflix series Wednesday, based on the Addams Family, that's a prime example.
Okay. So you also have activities. And how do you determine what to do there? I know sometimes it's with costumes. I've seen some advertised in the paper. How do you choose what you're going to do when it comes to an activity to engage teens?
Sure. Just like anything else, we try to seek input from the teens themselves. So we've had surveys that we've put out to local students and to teens who come into the space, or if we're at an outreach event. Our most recent one indicated they had a greatest amount of interest was in our anime manga club, which we're talking about, where we all cosplay is always welcome, never required. And then there's a big interest in art. We recently partnered with the adult programming department and had a tiny art night.
I heard that was really popular.
Yes, people just kept coming in the door, but we met people where they were. So we had teens that came in on their own or with families or adults or folks who were in the building. It was a really, really nice draw.
And so basically they just got a little square to paint?
4x4, stretched canvas on an easel, all the paint you want to put on it, and off we went. So those are some of the popular things that
is there usually
teens were
a
interested
theme?
in.
Or not necessarily?
Not necessarily, no. We just try to keep tabs on current trends and fads. Can we move quickly enough to incorporate one of those? And then try to meet them where they are. In addition to in-person activities, we also do takeout kits. Yeah, COVID, the shutdown and online schooling really changed how teens interact with all the world, the library included. So, and again, in that same effort to provide a response to them, we have kits for whatever reason. Maybe they can't come in, maybe it's not a convenient time. We've got some folks with social anxiety, and you can come in, you don't have to talk to anybody, you can grab a kit. It's full of information, it's full of an activity. You can take it home and do it at your convenience, at your leisure. So those will be like art. We've done Jackson Pollock abstract art paintings with squirt bottles, recommended for outside use, and then not indoor. And then we are not out to hack off parents with any of our activities by any means. But we've done STEM kits, like last month in January, we did touchscreen gloves. So you could use conductive thread and alter a pair of gloves so you can actually use them with your touchscreen. We've done zombie stuffies, pet toys, fidget cubes, you name it.
So you don't necessarily shy away from technology. You've kind of embraced it by, making those gloves,
Yeah, yeah,
incorporating that as well.
exactly. Yeah.
So what would you advise parents to do if they really would like their kid to read more? Is there an approach a parent can have to kind of encouraging their, youth to read more?
Yes. Please, 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 I'm begging you, don't force it.
Don't force it.
Don't make it compulsory or a chore. That's the biggest thing. I cannot tell you how many teens come into the department and are just like, I have to read this. I'm being forced at school, at home, and it's very compulsory, and that's exactly how they take it. I would say whatever a parent could do to create a space, physically or otherwise, for a teen to engage in reading or to have an opportunity to read, and that can take a lot of different shapes. That can be a parent modeling reading for pleasure or for informational purposes in front of their teen. It can, if you show the teen like, hey, I can read, I can listen to an audiobook in the car, I can read, sitting around
Setting
the
a good
house.
example.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big one. And then again, meeting them where they are. So whatever you can do to connect to a teen's interest is really, really, really important. And understanding that their interests may not mirror the parents' interests is really big too. Because you could have an auditory learner and maybe the audiobook is the answer for them. Maybe that's how they can retain information, enjoy the story, but it may not be the parents' go-to. Well, understand it, embrace it. Graphic novels or books too. You may have a reluctant reader who...
I hated it when they took all the pictures away from books.
Right, yeah.
Adults like photos too.
Exactly.
Yes, so.
Exactly. So
Excellent.
that would be my biggest advice, is just do whatever you can to like low-key, subtly encourage it.
But don't force it.
Don't force it.
All right, great advice. Thank you, Beth Snow with the Teen Library at Joplin Public Library. Thanks for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, Lisa.
There is so much to read and do at the library. Be sure to explore one close to you. That wraps up this edition of Newsmakers. Thanks for watching.